So last night, I don't know if any one of you watched the Question Time on BBC One, hosted by Fiona Bruce. It was, I think, in Liverpool. Among the guests were representatives from the SNP, the Labour, and the, as expected, ruling party, the Tory party. But there was one notable guest, and her name is Melanie Phillips. Frankly speaking, I didn't know much about her until I watched her last night, and she was just sick. Sick would be the understatement to describe her. I mean, she was introduced as a known author, commentator, journalist. I've never heard of her before. I mean, you can excuse my ignorance, but thank God I didn't know much about her. You have to watch that to understand just how sick a human being can be. She was, giving a rebuttal to the SNP leader's statement on Gaza. And she started by saying that there is no starvation. I'm not kidding. You have to watch that. It's on iPlayer and it will be there for next 1 week. She started by saying there is no starvation. It's all distortion of truth. I'm quoting her word verbatim. Distortion of truth. There is no starvation. And she said hundreds of trucks are passing through Gaza. Again, I'm quoting her verbatim. Hundreds of trucks are passing through Gaza. Nobody is stopping those trucks. Nobody is stopping those trucks. So the visuals of, the kids being forced to eat food meant for the horses and the donkeys and various animals are all lie, according to her. So I wasn't expecting Fiona Bruce to challenge her, but she did. And she did with all respect. She at least challenged her to say that, look, everybody from Oxfam to UNICEF to United Nations to WHO, everybody has been saying, about the level of starvation that Gazans are facing, particularly in north of Gaza. She wasn't. All she was saying in her defense was, look, go to YouTube. She was referring to some photos or visuals, which suggested that there is, the Gazans are inundated with food and the foods are being wasted, to which Fiona Bruce did correct her to say that, those visuals may not be authentic because there is no timestamp on those visuals, on those photos on YouTube. So anyway, and she went on, for about 6 minutes, 6-minute rant. I was counting the time, and she wasn't challenged. I'll just play a small clip of what she said last night here.
He says that the Gazans are being denied by Israel access to food and humanitarian supplies. Yes. This is completely untrue. There have been hundreds and hundreds of trucks going through Gaza. There have been hundreds of trucks stopped by from going through Gaza because the food is being stolen by Hamas. The Gazans themselves are saying this. You laugh because you don't know. I am telling you.
But hang on. Melanie, in fairness, the UN says that not enough trucks are being allowed in and that children are dying of starvation. You've got UNICEF saying children are dying of starvation.
The UN has had its own operatives in UNRWA, the Relief and Welfare Organization, who are members of Hamas, dozens and dozens of them. They are entirely compromised.
OK, so Melanie, I'll let you speak, I promise, but just to be clear what you're saying, when you've got the WHO and the UN and the EU humanitarian chiefs saying there is famine in Gaza, you're saying that's not true.
You can go on YouTube and see pictures of the stocked food markets in Gaza. Why are you laughing?
Have you seen them?
Have you seen them?
Actually,
have you seen these
Melanie,
video pictures?
I have looked at some of them. They don't have timestamps on them. I've got to point that out. So I don't know when these pictures were taken.
OK.
I mean, if you have proof that they were taken in the last October...
if you want to look at pictures, Melanie, I'm quite happy to send you some pictures and videos of civilians being bombed.
Now, she calls herself a proud Israeli person. Now, imagine if somebody was to indulge in exactly the same shameless denial of Holocaust. How would she feel about it? I mean, she would immediately want the arrest of those individuals, accusing them of being anti-Semitic. Why can't she be arrested now? I mean, this is nothing but Islamophobia, plain Islamophobia, plain hate speech. Let's call it. It was only after, I think, 6 or 7 minutes, when Fiona Bruce came and said, look, it's been, you've spoken for a long time, so let's get the response from Stephen Flynn, who is the SNP leader. And the kind of language she was using for the SNP leader. He's an SNP leader who represents, who commands or who leads a team of 43 MPs in the parliament. But the way she was, addressing her, clearly you could make out that this is the language of street thug. And what do you expect, from a Zionist? That's the kind of language that you would expect from her. I mean, the sophistication or, being civilized are not kind of something that you would find in their dictionary. I mean, I was puzzled as to why she was invited on Question Time. And if I was in the audience, I would have asked Fiona Bruce that this is a sheer wastage of my license fee money. Clearly, she didn't find many supporters except one or two who desperately wanted to clap. But a majority of those audience members, from Liverpool, to be fair to them, they really gave her grief. And she didn't like it. She didn't like it. I think the question arises that, how sick you have to be to deny that there is no starvation in Gaza. I think George Galloway puts it absolutely aptly. George Galloway had just tweeted saying, the sight of grown and presumably literate adults on here claiming there is no starvation in Gaza is as grotesque as it is inexplicable. It is akin to Holocaust denial and just as sickening. I think the word is sickening. She started by saying that I spent most of my time in Israel. I'm a proud Brit. But, here you go. And I think, as a Brit, every Brit has to be ashamed that, you are sharing the nationality with a sickening person like Melanie Phillips. And she's being invited and given a platform on a BBC One, which is watched by millions of people every Thursday night. I think the BBC has to think about it. Amongst other charges, many charges of biases and being complicit, in Israeli genocide, I think the BBC will have to come clean now. Do you really want to give platform to these disgusting people? It was really, really disgusting viewing. If you haven't watched it, please go and watch it. It's on iPlayer. So I just thought, I would share my frustration with all of you. Thank you very much. God bless you all. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. This is one of the many ways that you can support honest journalism. Thank you very much.